Hello, today is November the 11th of the year 2020. My name is Jorge de Leon, and I'm interviewing Emily Zuniga for the University Library Special Collections and Archives at the University of Texas Rio Grande Valley, hereafter abbreviated as UTRGV. This project is in partnership with the Voces Oral History Center at the University of Texas at Austin. Please know, Ms. Zuniga, that this interview will be placed in the University Library Special Collections and Archives at UTRGV and shared with the Voces Oral History Center at the University of Texas at Austin. If there is anything you do not wish to answer or talk about, I will honor your wishes. Also, if there is something you do want to talk about, please bring it up and we'll talk about it. The University Library Special Collections and Archives will archive your interview along with any other photographs and other documentation you're willing to share. UTRGV University Library will retain copyright or non-exclusive right to the interview and any other materials you donate to special collections and archives at UTRGV. Because we are not conducting this interview in person, I need to record you consenting to make sure you agree with our interview procedures before we continue. So I'll ask you a series of 6 questions. Please say yes, I agree, or no for I do not agree after each question. Do you give University Library Special Collections and Archives at UTRGV consent to archive your interview and your materials at the UTRGV University Library?
Yes.
Do you grant UTRGV University Library Special Collections and Archives right, title, and interest and copyright over the interview and any materials you provide?
Yes.
Do you agree to allow UTRGV University Library Special Collections and Archives to post this interview on the internet where it may be viewed by people around the world?
Yes.
Do you grant the University Library Special Collections and Archives consent to share your Zoom interview with the Voces Oral History Center at the University of Texas at Austin for inclusion in the Voices of a Pandemic Oral History mini project, which will include posting the interview on the internet?
Yes.
As you recall, we previously filled out a pre-interview form. We use information from the pre-interview form to help in research. The entire form is kept in a secure Voces server at the University of Texas at Austin. Before Voces sends it UTRGV University Library Special Collections and Archives, we would have stripped out any contact information for yourself or family members so that they will not be part of your public file. Your public file will only be accessible at UTRGV University Library. The final 2 questions ask for your consent on what I just described. Do you wish for us to share the rest of your interview in your public file available to researchers at UTRGV University Library Special Collections and Archives?
Yes.
On occasion, UTRGV Special Collections and Archives and Voces receive requests from journalists who wish to contact our interview subjects. We only deal with legitimate news outlets. Do you give consent for us to share your phone numbers or your email with journalists?
Yes.
Thank you for your consent. Your experiences and stories mean a lot to us at UTRGV Special Collections and Archives. I look forward to what you have to say in the interview questions I will now ask. Tell me, Emily, a bit about yourself and please introduce yourself.
Well, my name is Emmily Zuniga. I'm 22 years old. I live in Brownsville, Texas. I lived in San Antonio, Texas for about 4 years. I am going to school at the Texas State Technical College, and I am getting my associates in biology. I'm also going for my surgical tech certificate as well as my teacher certificate. And I work full time at this job called ACT in Harlingen, Texas.
So the first question I want to ask you, Emily, is when did you first hear about COVID-19 and how did you learn about it?
I first heard about COVID-19 back in March. I heard about it in the news and within a family chat that I have. Our family members were talking about how people have been getting sick and how there's a virus that's going around and that we need to take care of ourselves. Um, at this time, I was actually at Six Flags and I heard about the coronavirus, but I didn't know it was that strong or that it was impacting people that hard. So I was careless enough to go to Six Flags, but luckily I didn't contract anything. But that's when I started hearing about it right when I got back from Six Flags.
Okay. What was your first reaction to the information you heard about COVID-19?
Um, I was pretty surprised and shocked that there's like an actual virus that's been going around and how the pandemic has been pretty hard. Well, that a pandemic started in our generation and how it can be easily contracted or like easily um you can easily get in just like walking by somebody maybe airborne or them touching you. I was very
At what point did you realize this COVID-19 pandemic was a serious life alternating effect, or perhaps you did not think it was serious? Why would you think that?
the beginning it, in the beginning I thought it wasn't too serious, but one right when I started hearing the news, I heard that they had to park 18 18 wheels trailers outside of the hospitals because there were so many people that were passing away every single day, and they had to put them in a body bag and put them in back of the trailers and with the AC on so their body won't decompose. And that's when I knew that it was pretty serious and pretty um it was affecting a lot of people.
Over the last few months, what news media, social media, or other resources do you rely on to keep you informed about COVID-19?
Um, I at the time when I first heard about COVID-19, I didn't have any cable. I only had Netflix. Just because I was never home, so I never wanted to spend money on cable. So I would watch the YouTube news, and just if not, I would always look online on my phone and look at the stats and see what new symptoms were diagnosed or what has been going on all around the United States.
Can you share with me what you understand about COVID-19 as an infectious disease? Also, likewise, can you share with me perhaps what you don't understand, you do not understand about COVID-19?
So what I understand from COVID-19 is it does affect our lungs, and it does affect you in the long run as well. Like once you get it, you are able to contract it again. Um, that that the elderlies are the ones that get most impacted very easily, especially those who are like who have asthma or who have some kind of heart condition. It does affect them more compared to us healthy individuals. It also does affect the newborns. What I don't understand is how it's been almost a year now with COVID-19 going around, and we still haven't seemed to find a cure for it.
Would you take the first COVID-19 vaccine available on the market? Why would you or why would you not?
If it's FDA approved, I will take it right away without even thinking about it. Just because our lives has changed and we have been impacted pretty hard. And I mean, honestly, I just don't want to live with coronavirus anymore. I just want to be able to do my own thing as I did before.
Does your family hold the same beliefs as you about COVID-19, or are there some family members who take it more serious or more likely?
My family, ourselves, we take it seriously, but not as seriously as one of my aunties. She always has her mask on. She's in her car, she has her mask. She's at work, she has her mask. She's walking just to her door, from her car to her door. She always has her mask. Inside my grandma's house, inside somebody else's house. I've never seen her without her mask on. I don't know if she's maybe just paranoid or maybe she's just very scared about the coronavirus, but I've never seen her without her mask or anywhere without it.
Okay. Um, what about friends? Are there any friends that take it lightly or they treat it seriously?
I feel like my friends don't personally care about the coronavirus because my friends, they do all go to the gym, they do hang out with friends, they go to the to restaurants like on a daily basis. They go to the park where people are breathing and sweating and like touching the ball, like everyone's touching the ball. Um, they go to bars, they go to the beach. I personally don't think my friends care because they got it already. I had a friend who got it almost 3 times and they personally don't care if they get it again. So they don't take it as serious as it should.
For these next set of questions, I'd like to talk about how COVID-19 has affected you personally and about your experience having contracted COVID-19. Can you tell me a story of when you first felt sick with COVID-19 and what were your symptoms?
My system, my symptoms when I first got coronavirus, it first started with me being tired. I was always tired. My head was hurting. I just felt very drowsy. After that, my head started pounding. Like somebody had a hammer inside my head and was like nailing something to my head. And after that, I started getting a cough, like a very small cough. I didn't think it was much of it. I started to That's when I started to smell. I couldn't smell anything. The NyQuil is so strong that I couldn't even smell it. Um, I couldn't even smell like any detergent or anything. That's when I knew it was pretty serious. So when I started cooking, I asked my brother if he can smell the teriyaki because I thought it didn't smell like anything. And he told me, no, yeah, it smells good. Are you just playing around with me? Because I mean, I smell it perfectly fine. And I was just like, that's crazy. It's like I'm probably just not not smelling it correctly. And then when I ate the food, I couldn't taste anything. That's when I knew my symptoms were pretty serious, and I probably had gotten COVID-19, or more than likely I got COVID-19 because a flu, you don't get it just cause.
Now that you told me about your symptoms and about the different changes that you went through having gotten COVID-19, what symptoms frightened you the most, or what symptoms made you panic?
The not being able to smell or taste just because I love tasting food. I mean, I love smelling candles. I like knowing how my room smells or how I smell. So when I wasn't able to smell or taste anything, that's when I started to like freak out the most.
Being that COVID-19 and the flu have similar symptoms, and in fact, they're both compared as being kind of related to one another, is there anything that you can say how they're both different, or something that you said, you know what, this is not the flu and it's something else, or?
Um, when I knew it wasn't the flu is when I couldn't smell, when I couldn't taste, or when my chest was hurting because I've had the flu a couple times like over my years, and I've never had it impact me this hard as a coronavirus did, and that's when I knew it was not the flu. And it's because I got it also around the time it was flu season, so I got it at that time. So I didn't know if it was the flu or the coronavirus. But um right when I lost all my smell and taste, I knew it wasn't the flu.
How do you think you contracted the COVID-19, or how do you think you got it?
I got the corona. Well, the way I think I got coronavirus was through a friend of mine. I was hanging out with a friend, and we shared the same drink, and he could have probably contracted when he had a birthday party a couple of days, or no, like a week ago before we met, and he didn't tell me that um he had a gathering and there's a bunch of people around. So when I hanged out with him from socially distancing myself from everybody, I came back a couple of days later feeling very sick and very drowsy. And a couple of days later, well, he got sick too. So that's where I knew where I got it from. Because before I met my friend, I didn't hang out with anybody else besides my family and that person.
Can you share with me the story about when you got tested, or perhaps where did you go to get your results or get tested? How long was the wait? What did the test feel like? And how long did you take to get your results?
So I never did get tested just because at that time they were charging people to get tested. So what happened is um I waited for a response back to get a free exam, but it took them almost a week. Then I never got a call, I never got an email or anything letting me know if I got approved for a test or got denied. So I just waited it out at home. I self quarantined myself in my room, and I didn't let any of my family members near me. And if I was going to get food or was going to do something, I had a mask on with me and a face shield and gloves and everything. So my parents or anybody near me would get contracted with them.
Being that you didn't get tested and you decided not to get tested, did you, however, have any plans to go to a certain location to get tested? Or like, did you have a plan to go to a certain area?
When I wanted to get tested, I asked friends and family members if they knew a place where it wasn't too expensive. Because at that time it was like $150 to $200 just to get tested. So what I did is I asked around to see if anybody knew or anything new. I know CVS at the time they were doing free testings, but the CVS is near where I live. They weren't doing testing. They were doing it for free. You had to pay. And at that time I didn't have sufficient funds to support myself and to get this test. And well, I didn't want to get tested either just to find out I have COVID-19 and for it to be no cure. I wasn't gonna spend about $300 just to know something that I already know myself.
Being that there was several different types of way to get tested, which one were you planning on getting? Why, and which one do you think would have been the most effective for you?
I was debating. I wasn't debating. I was gonna get if I was gonna get the test, I was gonna get the blood work because the blood work you're able to receive your response or your test back within a week. No, not a week. No, not a week. I'm sorry. Within a couple of days or like a couple hours, from what I was told. So I was trying to look for somewhere where they're able to give me the blood work, especially since my family, my mom and my dad are very sick. They have type 2 diabetes. My dad has heart problems. My mom, um, she has high blood pressure. So I was very scared to give it to them.
Um, do you think the reason you also didn't go get tested was because maybe you were afraid that there was sick people there already that were getting tested and you were afraid that you might catch it there if you didn't have it already, or not really?
No, I wasn't scared. I wasn't scared if there was anybody there that had it because I mean, if I did have it, I already had it. So I wasn't scared to go get tested. I was just scared of giving it to somebody else.
Okay. So now you were aware that you had COVID-19, and if for some reason um, you hadn't acknowledged that yet, you know that you had something, that something was different, something was off, and you were feeling ill. Did you do anything to self-quarantine?
Yes, so I did keep myself in my room. Um, I didn't go out, see friends. I didn't let anybody visit me. Um, my parents, I would stay quite distance away from my parents. And wherever I touched the door, I did put Lysol. I wiped down the entire counters with Clorox. Um, I did do my own self treatments. I took painkillers like Nyquil, Vicks, medication from Mexico. I mean, all of that. It helped me and my self quarantine at home.
Okay. Um, so you self-quarantined, and that's good on your behalf. But we know COVID-19 is very infectious, and even though sometimes you self-quarantine or like we try many different methods to not affect others, is there anybody or someone in your family that still managed to get infected?
He asked a question one more time.
Um, being that you're self-quarantined and that you use one of the methods to avoid infecting others, did it keep anyone from your family getting infected from you, or they still did, regardless?
So nobody in my family actually got COVID-19. After I got sick, it was just myself that got affected just because like I said, I did do a lot of self-quarantine. I didn't let anybody in my room, especially my little brother, because my little brother does have like he has a kidney that's failing. So he was very prone to get sick. So I try to stay away as much as I can away from my family just to protect mainly him, just protect mainly my brother.
Can you tell me how the experience was like personally, or how did you feel
When I got coronavirus,
when you were self-quarantined?
I mean, it was pretty chill. um, I was just in my bed, just laying down, resting, watching TV, just just trying to relax my body, just trying to stay from overheating my body with the fever and everything.
Do you know anyone who has died from COVID-19?
Just one of our family friends who gave it to my grandma. She passed away the first week of getting the coronavirus. It hit her pretty hard compared to my grandma, and she passed away.
How long did it take you to recover from COVID-19?
It took me it did take me about almost like about a week and a half or 2 weeks. because like I said, I did give myself a lot of medications. I was drinking a lot of NyQuil and a lot of Dayquil just to keep me going and keep me working, and just to keep me awake during the day. So at night I can drink my NyQuil and go to sleep peacefully, not having to have a fever or a runny nose or a cough or anything like that, or body sores.
Is there any medication that you were taking that obviously is not going to cure you from COVID-19, but that it made it bearable or that it made you feel better?
There was an antibiotic that one of my good friends of mine gave me, which was Mexico, and they said that it helps with fevers and coughs, and it helps. It actually did help me a lot when I was starting to work, because before I had to go back into work, I took the medication and it gave. I didn't have a fever anymore. My body sores were gone. The only thing that I couldn't do is smell or taste. But that medication, with the antibiotics that they provided me, it worked like vitamins.
Okay. Um, did you hear that same medication that you were taking, that others were taking it and they were feeling better, or it was just for your personal case?
I feel like it was just me personally, um, because I feel like my immune system is stronger than compared to if I also give it to my grandma or a family friend who passed away. Um, I feel like it wouldn't help with their case, but since my immune system is more stronger and could probably cure my body faster, I feel like it helped me better than it will help anybody else in my family.
So you recovered from COVID-19. Was there any side effects that you still suffered from, or maybe that you're still even suffering today at the present time?
After catching the coronavirus, I still feel like my body aches every once in a while, or my chest, it hurts. My lungs, they feel like they don't work as properly as they did before. I do get fevers every once in a while. I mean, my grandma who actually had coronavirus, her body's not the same. She lost a lot of she lost a lot of weight, and her muscles got really weak. She had to use a walker. She's never once used a walker before. Now she has to because of the coronavirus. And her lungs are very weak. She's always coughing because her lungs were giving up on her when she was at the hospital. Um, she can't really speak as much as she used to because when she got the coronavirus, one of her bronchioles and her throat, they they suffered with damage, so she's not able to speak or say a sentence without having to cough or struggle talking.
Do you have insurance? And if so, did the insurance cover any of your healthcare costs?
So I do have insurance. I do have Blue Cross Blue Shield in Texas, and they only covered the doctor visit. They didn't cover the test or the medications or anything like that. If they were going to provide me anything, so that's another reason why I never took the test because my insurance didn't want to cover it.
By any chance, do you know if your insurance had changed its policies, or perhaps they're doing something differently to help people that are getting infected with COVID-19?
I don't believe our insurance has changed, especially with this whole coronavirus. But I mean, I hope they did change, just because it is still an ongoing virus, and a lot of people might still be getting impacted. So it will help in the long run if they were to change their policies.
Okay, so let's talk about family now, and it's a very important topic to everyone, I would say. So tell me about how your family's regular way of life has been affected by the pandemic of COVID-19.
So my family's life, my parents' life stayed the same. They still go to the work every single day, every single morning. My dad wakes up at 6:30 just to go to work. My mom wakes up as well at 6:30 just to go to work, and they come home around 7 or 8 in the afternoon. They do that every day. So their life and their work life never changed. But when it comes to me and my sister is about to lose her job just because with the whole pandemic, she's not able to see her clients in person. She's not able to interact with them and make her hours that she needs. So it impacted her the most because now she's not going to have a job. And now it's hard for her to find a job, especially with the coronavirus going around and not being able to see her clients. For me, it didn't really change as much. I did have to move different cities because of it, the whole coronavirus. I didn't have a job when I was in San Antonio, so I had to come back home to live with my family. And now my sister, who had a job, she stayed in the apartment that I was in, and she did take care of all the payments, which caused her financial impact.
Can you share with me briefly how other family members outside your personal family have reacted and embraced the pandemic?
So my other family members outside of my family, my tia who lives with my grandma, she 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 got impacted pretty hard just because she did get in, and she has to work from home and also take care of my grandma. So for her, like she did get impacted the most compared to anybody else in my family members because she had to change her whole life around just to take care of my grandma and still maintain to take care of her kids as well.
Can you tell me or perhaps share with me how your family has spent the holidays with other members with your families? Did you celebrate any holidays or did you skip them to practice social distancing or gathering in large crowds?
When when I came back home, it was around March. So the only like the end of March, so like let's say around the beginning of April. So the only holiday after that that's been going on was 4th of July. And during 4th of July, I was working my 10-hour shifts. So after I finished working my shifts, I was at home with my family. But every other holiday or every other thing, we all stayed at our own homes. We never had a big social gathering, and if we did, it was very occasionally. Which we had like a family gathering, where if it was a birthday party, if you were sick, you had to stay at home. You weren't able to come to the gathering. For example, when my grandma got sick, we had my brother's 15th birthday party, and my grandma and anybody that visited my grandma or lived in her house weren't able to come just to protect us. So we all had like a group chat where we were able to communicate with each other about what's going on. Because when I got sick, we had a gathering and I didn't go because I didn't want anybody else to get sick besides me.
What has your family said concerning COVID-19 affecting South Texas, and who do they blame, or perhaps what do they think could have been done better to prevent such an outbreak?
We well, I personally blame the spring breakers that came because um if they didn't know the Brownsville is filled with elderlies just because they come here to retire because it's affordable and well their loved ones are here and they're coming. Spring break was around the beginning of March, and that's when the first wave of the coronavirus hit pretty hard. They were still coming here, they were still partying, they were still gathering, and so like they're still gathering and getting next to each other. Nobody was wearing masks, nobody was doing any social distancing or any kind, and them coming to our city kind of spread it around, and then they spread it to all over the United States. There was a case of a lady who was in spring break here in South Padre Island, and she went to Kentucky, and then she went to Tennessee, and then she went to Cali. She was jumping around with coronavirus and going on a plane, still visiting a bunch of family members. People who are in spring breaking, even though they knew there was a pandemic going on, were the reason that I believe that could have caused this to have such a high number of cases. Because when I lived in San Antonio, it was a big city, so I understand the cases being high. For this small city, the cases shouldn't have gone high as they did after spring break.
Is there perhaps any changes your family implemented social-wise, such as avoiding going out often or perhaps not going out to public places unless necessary?
We do not, we do go out if it's necessities. For example, if we do need groceries, we will go out. We will send one of us with double mask to go buy what we need to buy. But we would not go to bars. We would not go to clubs. We would not go anywhere where it's very crowded or very close to each other. We keep our social distancing as much as we can.
One of the most common things, aside from being affected from COVID-19, is unemployment and difficulties finding a job in now the present day. How do you feel COVID-19 has affected your employment opportunities and your career?
For me, it hasn't impacted my employment just because I still am going to school. So I don't have a career yet. I do not plan on making this job my career. This is just a job. Um, but me personally never affected me. But I feel like it is affecting my loved ones. For example, like my sister who worked so hard in school and found a job that she likes, and now she's being let go due to coronavirus and for her not being able to make her hours. But me personally, it's never impacted me just because I found a job that's just a job, not a career.
Did your job at ACT take any precautions to keep their employees and yourself healthy? And if they did, what did they do exactly?
In the beginning, they tried to keep like um they try to keep us safe. They try to give us a mask, but the mask was a fabric. You can you can see people's mouth moving. You can see them breathing in and out. So I mean, my personal opinion, it didn't seem useful to use. But it's like the same thing without a mask on. So, um, and then a couple weeks, but then 2 or 3 weeks after like being in office, they stopped giving out the mask. They didn't want you. They didn't care if you wore the mask. They didn't care if you put Germex on. They didn't care if you wiped down your desk with Clorox. They didn't care of anything like that. So when they didn't care until somebody got sick. And that's when they started to disinfect the buildings. That's when they started to send people home with with computers, monitors, stuff like that. They finally cared when somebody actually got sick.
Okay. Can you tell me how difficult it has been balancing your personal life and your job? Is there any changes that you had to make to adjust to the changes that COVID-19 has brought onto you?
I mean, personally, it never affected me just because I was never a social butterfly, so I was never going out before COVID-19. So for me, it never really impacted me just because I personally like being at home. I like being my own comfort of my house. Um, I get to spend more time with my dog, and I get to spend more time with my family and my schoolwork. So it never impacted me or stressed me out or anything in that case.
When you had contracted COVID-19, how would you describe your experience having to take time off work?
When I contracted COVID-19, I was still working. I was still trying to make my 40 hours a week. I was still trying to work the 10-hour shifts. Um, I was off 3 days out of the week. So those times that I had off, I wasn't in school yet. So I would just relax my body, take a bunch of NyQuil or DayQuil as I could, um, eat soup, just take all the liquids that I needed to take, put Vicks on myself. I did everything I had to just to make myself feel better the days I was off so I can work the next day and feel not groggy or feel as if feeling very terrible.
Can you explain where your employment took the step policies and requirements that were laid out before your return?
Before I returned after being sick,
Yes. Did they do any policies or any steps that you had to take before you were like allowed back to work with them?
mm, no, they never knew that I got sick because I was working from home. So, and when I did tell them I was sick, they just told me to keep working and just if I was very sick to call off but make up my hours. So my job never cares. They don't care about their employees when it comes to them being sick. They just want you to make your hours.
Uh, can you share with me how lenient and how flexible was your job learning you had contracted the COVID-19 virus?
Can you ask me again, please?
Can you share with me how lenient and how flexible was your job? If they had learned you had contracted the COVID-19 virus?
They, if they were to know that I had COVID-19, they wouldn't respond to it. They wouldn't respond to like other jobs where they'll tell you, "Oh, get better. Whenever you're feeling better, you can come back, or whenever you get tested and you come out negative, you can come back." They were never. They're not that company to care um how you're feeling. They just, like I said, they just want you to make your hours.
Okay. Um, can you share with me how working at home on a cell phone has been for you? Is it better job or do you prefer previous jobs when you were interacting with other individuals?
I personally hate talking on the phone, so I prefer working with individuals because I prefer seeing somebody face to face instead of talking through a phone, not knowing how they're feeling exactly or seeing their facial expressions. Um, I feel like I'm more of an in-person interaction when it comes to customer service instead of a phone. And especially since our systems do crash a lot, it's kind of hard to talk on the phone when our system's just going down all the time.
Do you feel the mask, social distancing, and other methods to battle COVID-19 have been effective thus far into the pandemic? Why or why not?
I feel like they have helped in some ways, but in, but I don't think social distancing is a big help with coronavirus because it is airborne. It could travel about a mile, so the 6 feet is not enough feet for you to be safe because you can still contract it with the mask on. You can still somebody can cough who has coronavirus. We can walk past by you and you can still contract it. So I don't think social distancing or the mask really help, but they do help those who are sick and don't know that they are sick and have a mask on, because some masks are very durable that if you sneeze, it doesn't go out of your mask compared to others.
Are you satisfied with local response to the COVID-19 pandemic in Brownsville and in Cameron County?
Yes and no. Yes, because at one point they were very strict. From what I heard when I was living in San Antonio, they were very, when they saw you out of curfew, they will stop you. They will they will close the streets. They will close every like restaurants early. They will close them before curfew, like an hour before curfew, so you can make it back home before curfew. But they weren't strict enough because they still had Clayton's Beach Bar open. They still had that specific, the biggest beach bar in Texas open for people to go and still drink and hang around with each other, especially when the coronavirus was spiking the most. So there were precaution, but not too precaution.
Are you satisfied with the state response to COVID-19 led by Governor Greg Abbott?
No, because when I lived in San Antonio, he wanted to keep it open. The most city that got contracted with coronavirus, he wanted to keep it open and running. He wanted to keep all businesses running. When nobody wanted to go out to eat, when nobody wanted to be out in public, he wanted to keep it open.
Are you satisfied with the national response to COVID-19 led by President Donald Trump and his administration?
No, Trump did not do his best to keep us protected. He couldn't even keep himself protected. So no, he didn't help our country with the coronavirus crisis.
If you had the power to respond to COVID-19, what would you do differently, if anything?
I will make masks mandatory right when they first invented, no, not invented, but right when the first coronavirus case started to go. I would have shut down Texas if I was the Governor Abbott. I wouldn't do what they did. I would do the opposite. When I worked at Amazon, they didn't make masks mandatory until somebody got sick. That's when they finally started to make mandatory the mask. They didn't enforce the 6 feet until somebody got sick. They should have done it way before somebody got sick to enforce the mask or to enforce the 6 feet.
This is a special year in our national democracy because it's a presidential voting year. Did you vote? And if so, did you notice or do anything differently because of the COVID-19 pandemic?
I personally didn't vote for personal reasons, but I hope now that Biden's our president, I hope he can do something better about this coronavirus than Trump did.
Okay, Emily, thank you for your time. I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to conduct this interview and for you being here and sharing your experience um, with myself and with others that are going to view this interview. Thank you so much for your experiences, and I appreciate you being here.
Of course, it was my pleasure.